Hey everyone! So, when you think about investing, you probably picture buying stocks, maybe holding them for a while, and just watching them, right? But what if owning a piece of a company meant more than that? What if it gave you a voice, a really powerful one? Well, today, that's what we're digging into, how your investments can actually speak up.
Because, let's be real, the impact of a company's actions, and yeah, by extension, your investment in that company, it goes way beyond just a line on a spreadsheet. We're talking about real operations that have very real consequences for people and for the planet.
I mean, just look at this tragic example. When the Vale Dam collapsed, it wasn't just some news headline or a financial problem for the company. It was an absolutely devastating human and environmental disaster. Sure, the financial cost was huge, but the cost in human lives, that's just incalculable.
So this brings up a really critical question. When you see a company you've put your money into connected to a disaster like this, what do you do? I think for a lot of us, the first instinct is just to sell the stock, get out, walk away. But is that really the only option? Is it the most responsible one?
And that's where this idea of an owner's responsibility really comes into focus. See, if you own a share, you are technically an owner. And with that ownership comes a huge opportunity, and a lot of people would argue a responsibility, to try and influence that company for the better. This is the whole idea behind active ownership.
In fact, this is such a big deal that it's the second of the principles for responsible investment. It's basically a formal promise that investors make to not just be passive bystanders. They're pledging to be active owners and to weave those crucial environmental, social, and governance, ESG, issues right into how they handle their investments.
And the word for putting all this into practice? It's stewardship. It's all about using your rights and your influence as an investor. And not just for your own bottom line, but to protect and grow those shared assets, things like a stable climate or a healthy society, that, let's face it, everybody's long-term prosperity really depends on.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how do you actually do it? What does this look like in the real world? Well, it turns out active owners have a pretty powerful toolkit they can use to make their influence felt.
First up, we've got engagement. Honestly, this is all about having a conversation. It's investors literally sitting down at the table with a company's management or their board. And the goal is to have a real dialogue, to push for better performance on critical issues, everything from carbon emissions to worker safety.
The second key tool is voting. So if engagement is the conversation, voting is the formal decision. As a shareholder, you actually get a vote on really important company matters, like who sits on the board or how much the top execs get paid. It's a direct, official way to make your voice heard. So you've got these two main channels, right? Engagement is that constructive dialogue to try and influence behavior. Proxy voting is the formal, down-to-business vote to approve or disapprove actions. And, the most effective stewardship often uses both of these together. A quiet conversation can be a lot more persuasive when it's backed up by the very real possibility of a no vote. And hey, this isn't some new, trendy idea. Investors have been using their voice for decades. We're talking shareholder proposals against napalm production way back in the 60s, to new principles being created after the Exxon Valdez oil spill, all the way to just a few years ago when investor pressure led to the CEO of Rio Tinto resigning. Active ownership has a long, proven history of making a real difference.
But here's where it gets even more interesting. An investor's influence doesn't have to stop with just one company. Nope. Really effective stewardship means thinking bigger, trying to shape the entire system that all these companies operate in.
And this can involve a whole range of activities. You've got investors working together on a big issue, engaging directly with policymakers and industry groups, even funding public research. The whole idea is to raise the tide for all the ships, not just patch the leaks in one.
And one of the most powerful tools in that broader toolkit is policy engagement. This is when investors talk directly to the people who write the rules, the regulators, the lawmakers. They can use their expertise to help shape policies that create a more sustainable and stable financial system for everyone. It's a huge lever for change. So, after looking at all these tools and strategies, it really all boils down to one simple, incredibly powerful idea. This is the key takeaway for every single person who invests. It's this: ownership is influence. That's it. Whether you own one share or a million, that ownership gives you a voice. It gives you a right to engage, to vote, and to push the companies you invest in to be better. Better for the world and better long-term investments.
Which, of course, leaves us with one final big thought. The flow of money through our financial system. It is one of the most powerful forces on this planet. So if capital really does have a voice, maybe the most important question we can ask ourselves is this: what should it be saying?